The rain had been falling since dusk, weaving silver ribbons down the fogged cafe windows. The soft hum of the city outside was muted beneath the steady rhythm of droplets, creating a lullaby only loneliness could understand. Inside, the cafe was nearly empty, just the faint hiss of the espresso machine and the quiet buzz of the hanging lights. Arya sat by the corner window, her fingers grazing the strings of her old mahogany guitar, the same one she had played 100 times beside him. She plucked a soft note, it trembled in the air. Fragile, uncertain, much like her own heart these days. The song she had been trying to finish sat open on the table, a torn notebook page filled with scribbles, crossed-out lyrics, and coffee stains. At the top, in messy handwriting, were the words "Echoes of You." She stared at them for a long time, the way one might stare at an open wound. 3 months, that's how long it had been since Liam left. No fight, no warning, just a single message on a crumpled note. "I have to find my sound." She had read it 1,000 times, searching for meaning between the words. Maybe he meant freedom. Maybe he meant goodbye. Either way, silence had followed him, and silence was the cruelest kind of music. The cafe had become her refuge ever since. Every night after work, she brought her guitar here, ordered the same black coffee, and sat by the same window. The owner, Mr. Patel, never asked questions. He just refilled her cup when it got cold. Sometimes he would turn off the cafe music so she could play instead. "You bring peace to this place," he'd say kindly. But Arya knew what she really brought: ghosts. Her fingers brushed the strings again, this time forming the opening chord of the song they never finished. It was supposed to be about love that survived distance. Ironic now, the melody lingered, aching with memory. Liam's voice used to fill these pauses, rich and unpolished, the kind of sound that carried stories in every breath. Without him, every note felt hollow, like singing into an empty room. As she played, the rain grew heavier, drumming against the glass with growing insistence. A couple in the corner whispered softly, hands intertwined, lost in their own world. Arya smiled faintly. She used to look at Liam the same way. She closed her eyes and let her fingers move freely, chasing the fragments of a memory. His laughter, his crooked smile, the way he'd tap his guitar and say, "Feel it before you play it." The last chord hung in the air, fading into quiet. Arya exhaled, setting her guitar gently on the floor. She looked out the window, where neon lights shimmered against the wet pavement, reflecting a world that seemed to move on without her. Somewhere out there, she thought, he was still searching, and here she was, trying to finish a song that refused to end. Liam had always been the wild one, the kind of soul that burned bright and restless, chasing every note like it might vanish if he didn't catch it first. Arya used to joke that he didn't play music, he lived it. When they first met at an open mic night downtown, she'd been trembling behind her guitar, too shy to lift her eyes from the strings. Liam had gone on before her, barefoot, reckless, smiling at the crowd like the world already loved him. And when he played, it was magic. His voice wasn't perfect, but it meant something. It carried truth, and that truth had drawn her in like a song she couldn't stop replaying. After that night, they became inseparable to halves of one melody. Arya wrote the lyrics. Liam built the rhythm. Together, they found a harmony that felt destined. Late nights turned into early mornings spent in their tiny apartment studio, the air filled with laughter, caffeine, and the soft strum of guitars. They didn't have much, but they had music, and that was enough. Their dream was to record an album. They even had a name for it, Between the Lines. It was supposed to be a collection of songs that told their story: every fight, every kiss, every quiet moment that made love feel real. "We'll make people feel what we feel," Liam had said one night, lying on the floor surrounded by cables and notebooks. Not fame, not perfection, just truth. Arya had smiled, tracing her fingers over his tattooed arm, believing every word. But dreams have a way of changing shape. When a local producer discovered them at a live show, everything accelerated. Suddenly, there were expectations, meetings, rehearsals, recordings. People began calling Liam the next big thing. They praised his raw voice and wild charm, often overlooking Arya's writing. She didn't mind at first. She was proud of him, but the spotlight had a way of casting shadows. Soon, Liam started missing rehearsals. He said he was experimenting with a new sound. Arya supported him, even when it hurt to be left behind. The night he played her his new material, it was different, darker, louder. It didn't sound like them. She told him it was beautiful, but he could see the sadness in her eyes. "You've changed," she whispered. He had only smiled faintly. Maybe that's what music is supposed to do. A week later, he was gone. All he left behind was his half of Echoes of You, a haunting melody with no words, no closure. Every time Arya played it, she felt the emptiness between the notes. It wasn't just a song left unfinished. It was a promise broken in harmony. Now, as she sat in that same cafe months later, she could still hear his laughter echoing faintly in her mind, wild, untamed, alive. And even though he had walked away, part of him still lingered in every chord, refusing to fade completely. That night, the cafe was quieter than usual, almost hauntingly so. The rain had softened into a gentle drizzle, tapping faintly on the window like an old friend trying to be heard. Arya sat in her usual corner, her guitar balanced on her knee, her notebook open to the same unfinished page. The lights above flickered softly, bathing the room in a warm amber glow. Outside, the streets shimmered under the reflection of passing cars. But inside, time felt still. She began to hum again, quietly at first, her voice blending with the rain's rhythm. Her fingers found the strings almost by instinct, tracing the chords of echoes of you. The sound was fragile, uncertain, like the first breath after a long silence. Every note carried weight, not just of loss, but of love that refused to die. She didn't even realize she had closed her eyes. Music had become her only way to speak to him, wherever he was. Then, something strange happened. The cafe door creaked open, and a gust of cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of rain and earth. Arya's fingers froze mid. She didn't look up right away. Maybe it was another customer. Or maybe her mind was playing tricks again, summoning ghosts in the sound of wind. But then she heard it, the unmistakable sound of a guitar case being set down, followed by a soft, familiar voice. Still playing my chords wrong. Her breath caught in her throat. Slowly, she looked up, and there he was, Liam, standing at the door, rain-soaked from head to toe, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, eyes full of something between guilt and longing. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. She wasn't sure if she was angry, relieved, or just dreaming. He stepped closer, each footstep echoing in the empty cafe. You kept playing, he said quietly, as if afraid the moment might shatter. Arya stared, unable to form words. You left, she finally whispered, her voice trembling. I know. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking down. I thought I needed to find my sound. Turns out, I was just running from it. Silence stretched between them, heavy but not hostile, the kind that held years of unsaid words. Liam looked at her guitar, then at the empty chair across from her. May I? He asked softly, without speaking. Arya nodded. He opened his case, pulling out his guitar, the same one they had bought together years ago. The wood had aged, the strings looked worn, but the sound that came when he strummed was pure and familiar, like time folding back on itself. He began to play the melody. Their melody. Arya hesitated, then joined in, her fingers trembling before finding the rhythm. The cafe filled with the sound of reunion, two hearts speaking the language they'd forgotten how to say aloud. No one else was there to witness it, but it didn't matter. In that moment, the rain, the silence, the pain, everything melted away. Their unfinished song had found its way home. Neither of them spoke for a long while. The music had become their voice, each note carrying what words could never say. The cafe lights shimmered against the rain-streaked windows, turning the little room into something sacred, a place where time paused to listen. Arya's heart raced, her fingers brushing the strings with a tenderness she hadn't felt in months. Every sound Liam played felt like an apology wrapped in melody. Every chord, an unspoken confession. When the final note faded, silence filled the space. Thick, trembling, alive. Arya looked up and met his eyes. They were the same as she remembered, restless, searching, but softer now. He exhaled and smiled faintly. You remembered the bridge, he said. I never forgot it, she replied. I just couldn't finish it alone. Liam nodded, his jaw tightening. I thought I had to leave to find something new, but the more I played without you, the emptier it sounded. Like my music had a heartbeat missing. He looked around the cafe, then back at her. I came back because this is where I heard it again, that heartbeat. For a moment, neither could move. Then Arya reached for her notebook, the same one that had waited on that table every night since he left. She flipped to the song's last page. The lyrics were half-written, scribbled in frustration and longing. She turned it toward him. You finish it. Liam hesitated, his hand hovering over the page. Only if we finish it together. She smiled, small, unsure, but real. Always. They started again, slower this time. The first chord bloomed gently through the cafe. Arya sang the opening verse, her voice low and trembling, while Liam filled the gaps with soft harmonies. As they played, the song began to evolve, not the way they had planned it months ago, but into something richer, deeper, alive with pain and forgiveness. Mr. Patel, the cafe owner, peeked through the doorway, drawn by the sound. He didn't interrupt. He simply leaned against the counter and listened, eyes glistening. The rain outside became the rhythm section, tapping in time with the beat. When the final chorus came, Arya's voice broke on the word home. Liam caught her gaze and held it, his own voice steadying hers. Together, they finished the last line, the one neither of them had been able to write alone. Some songs don't end, they just come back when you do. As the final chord lingered, the world seemed to hold its breath. Arya closed her eyes, tears slipping free, not of sadness, but release. The weight she'd carried for months dissolved into the sound they'd created together. Liam reached across the table and took her hand. No promises, no apologies, just connection. Outside, the rain slowed to a gentle drizzle. The city lights reflected through the glass, painting them in gold and silver hues. In that quiet corner, two broken halves had found their rhythm again. Their unfinished song had finally found its ending. Weeks passed, but that night in the cafe stayed alive between them, a soft ember that refused to fade. Arya and Liam began meeting again, not to talk about the past, but to make music. Their connection had changed, gentler, steadier. The chaos that once surrounded them had been replaced by something deeper, peace. It wasn't about chasing perfection anymore. It was about feeling every note, every silence, every heartbeat in between. They spent long evenings in Arya's small apartment, now transformed into their recording space once more. The walls were lined with old posters and photos, reminders of their journey. A small lamp bathed the room in golden light, and the faint hum of recording equipment filled the air. Liam sat cross-legged on the floor, tuning his guitar, while Arya scribbled lyrics onto the same old notebook, the one that had carried echoes of you. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. He grinned, the same crooked grin she once thought she'd never see again. "I've been ready since that night." They began recording. The first take was raw, imperfect, full of small stumbles and laughter, but neither cared. Each version sounded more honest than the last. By the third take, the room was silent except for their song. Arya's voice was clear and haunting. Liam's harmonies wrapped around it like sunlight through rain. The lyrics told their story of dreams lost and found, of love that broke and healed again. When they finished, the final note hung in the air, trembling before fading into stillness. Liam let out a deep breath, smiling at her. "That's it," he whispered. "That's the sound I was looking for." Arya's eyes softened. It was never gone. "Liam, you just had to come home to hear it." They decided to upload the song, unsure of what would happen. They titled it simply An Unfinished Song. It wasn't meant for fame or attention, it was their goodbye and their beginning all at once. But the world had other plans. Within a week, the song went viral. People from around the world left comments about how it made them cry, how it reminded them of someone they'd lost or forgiven. Musicians covered it, couples danced to it, and playlists named it the sound of healing. But for Arya and Liam, the greatest success wasn't the numbers, it was knowing that their truth had touched someone else's heart. One evening, they returned to the same cafe where it had all begun. Mr. Patel greeted them with a knowing smile and turned off the music once more. Arya and Liam took their familiar seats by the window, guitars in hand. Outside, the city lights flickered in the rain, just like before. This time, though, the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was full of forgiveness, music, and memories reborn. As they began to play again, Arya looked at Liam and whispered, "Some songs never really end." He smiled. "Good, because this one's ours." And as their melody drifted into the night, it carried with it a message of love, loss, and hope, the kind that lives forever in the hearts it touches.